So as of the end of June, I will have been on YouTube for 6 months officially. And I've been having a great time just putting these videos together and watching all of these movies. I've officially watched 50 horror movies so far this year, which means that there's a good likelihood I could watch 100 by the end of 2025, which is insane. But now I feel almost obligated to try and hit that benchmark. So, what I want to do today is just talk about some of the movies that I've watched, kind of ranking them from the ones I enjoyed the most to the ones that I enjoyed the least. This might be a two-parter, just depending on how long it takes me to get through all 50 of these movies. So let's get started. And just a quick side note, I haven't posted a review in a little while, even though there have been some movies released in the last few weeks. I am currently trying to avoid going to the theater in an effort to save money. I'm getting married this year, and so there are a few movies that just really didn't make the cut as far as being worth going to the theater and reviewing. So I definitely am not done with reviews for the year, but I'm just being a little bit more choosy as far as which ones I go to. So I'm going to try to make some more content that is based on movies that I watch at home, movies that are near and dear to me, and maybe some more list recommendations for you all. I definitely don't want to fall behind on posting regularly. So I've separated the movies out into three categories. The bottom category being movies that I rated somewhere between a 2.5 and a 1.5, I believe, is the lowest that I have. The second category being starting at 3 and up to 3.5, and then the top category being anything from 4 up to 5. I don't have anything that is rated higher than a 5. So starting at the very bottom of the lower tier with the movie that I watched most recently, and that is Curtains from 1983. Six young actresses auditioning for a movie role at a remote mansion are targeted by a mysterious masked murderer. And like I said, this was my lowest rated. I rated this one at a 1.5. I found this movie to be very boring. I didn't really enjoy it at all. There wasn't a lot about it that I found redeeming, except for if you have seen it, there's a very iconic scene involving an ice skating rink. And that is really the only, that gave it a whole 0.5, I think. If it hadn't had that scene, I honestly don't know what could have compelled me to finish it. Um, I know this sounds mean, but I found this movie to be very boring. So it's at the bottom of my rankings for this year. Next up is Calivare from 2004. Mark, a traveling entertainer, is on his way home for Christmas when his van breaks down in the middle of a jerkwater town with some strange inhabitants. Strange inhabitants, indeed. This movie had some really nice cinematography, I think. Um, it is not a feel good movie by any means. This movie made me feel pretty icky and pretty yucky. Um, and that may have influenced my scoring of 2 out of 5 stars. Um, this was not a fun watch for me. There wasn't much that I enjoyed really about this movie. Um, I think it is well done and well made. So if you like more disturbing kind of um, difficult movies to watch, this is one to check out. I think it falls kind of in the general realm of like the French extremism. This movie is from Belgium, but it has that kind of like gritty, yucky, nihilist kind of feel to it. Next up is Schizoid from 1980. An advice columnist in the middle of getting a divorce begins receiving threatening notes from an anonymous stalker. So, if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you know that I have been trying to branch out of my typical, more modern horror preferences. And this was a movie that I watched for that reason. And while I have seen some gems through that kind of discovery, this movie was not one of them. It follows the typical slasher structure, um, but the characters in this movie kind of skeeved me out. I didn't really feel like compelled by any of them. And the kills are all done with the same instrument. And it might be nitpicky of me, but I prefer a little bit more variety, I guess, in my slashers. And this one just kind of felt more like a crime procedural than it did like a slasher. So I rated this one a 2 out of 5 as well. Next up is Strangeland from 1998. And this was actually one of my fiance's choices for our weekend movie nights. A detective pursues a sadist specializing in body modification rituals who lures teenagers through the internet. And I believe my Letterboxd review of this movie was something to the effect of this is what Christian moms believe Hot Topic employees do in their spare time. And that is how I would describe this movie. It gets points for being very goofy, and that definitely helps with its entertainment factor. Um, but it is so cheesy and strange. Um, definitely not my definitely not my favorite. But I gave this one a 2 out of 5 as well. Next up is Frontiers from 2007. I dabble in French extremism, and every time I do, um, I end up just feeling just kind of worse for having made that decision. A gang of young thieves flee Paris during the violent aftermath of a political election, only to hole up at an inn run by neo Nazis. I think that this film has a lot of really interesting things to say, but again, and maybe I don't know, I enjoy French extremism to an extent, um, but this movie just again just made me feel so icky. And I just can't give it much higher than a 2 out of 5 because of how gritty and gross and over the top it is. And that's a personal preference. I think this one is pretty like beloved in the French extremist community subgenre. Um, it just made me feel bad. So it's on the bottom of this list. Sorry, not sorry. Next up is Azrael from 2024. In a world where no one speaks, a devout female led community hunts down a young woman who has escaped imprisonment. This movie had a lot of parts that I liked to it. I liked the overall premise. I think Samara Weaving is really good in this movie. It's filmed really well, but something about all of the puzzle pieces being put together just really didn't leave me feeling anything. So I rated this one pretty low as well. I think I'm glad I did watch it because it is like a low budget kind of like it fell under the radar, I think, in 2024, but it's not something that I thought about too much longer after I finished watching it, if that makes sense. Um, it's interesting, though. It's got some really interesting bits to it, and I do appreciate that. Next up, and also from 2024, is hashtag missing couple. A real van life couple were on an adventure to renovate an abandoned farm in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. Cameras blazing, they chronicled their project on social media, but the farm was full of disturbing surprises, especially at night. I haven't had the opportunity to talk about it too much on this channel, but I love found footage. And so whenever a new found footage movie comes out, I try to consume that as quickly as possible. This movie really didn't deliver anything new or super interesting to the genre. Um, it was fine. I really don't have much to say about it. It kind of, again, it just sort of went in and went out. I don't know, this feels mean to talk about all of these in one sitting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say about this one. You it was pretty run of the mill found footage kind of stuff. Nothing too exciting. I'm sorry. Next up is Constantine from 2005. Detective Angela approaches Constantine, a demon hunter, to help her investigate her twin sister's mysterious death. As he digs deeper, he realizes that demons are trying to enter the human world. I had heard about this movie a lot, and I'm surprised I hadn't seen it sooner. It has a lot of components of things that I like. It feels very supernatural, like the TV show, but I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much as I anticipated that I would. Keanu Reeves is beloved, of course, but I didn't find anything especially compelling about the plot or the visuals in this movie. And I feel like that maybe would have been different had I seen this prior to having binged Supernatural many, many a time over. It just it it fell a little bit flat for me. I did rate this one a little bit higher. This one I rated as a 2.5 out of 5. Next up is Graduation Day from 1981. A masked killer begins murdering students on the school track team after a track runner dies upon completion of a 30-second 200-meter race. Again, another movie that I watched in my exploration of older horror, specifically slashers. This one is again not one of my favorites. There's a handful of movies that I watched in this effort that are higher up on this list. This one got a 0.5 above a 2 just because of how wacky and like intentionally artistic it tries to be. There's some really weird like montage scenes, some like strobing effects, like scenes intercut. It's really weird, but that definitely made it more enjoyable than the other two 80s slashers on this list. And lastly, in this category is Dead Mail from 2024. An ominous help note finds its way to a 1980s post office, connecting a dead letter investigator to a kidnapped keyboard technician. And this was another movie that had a lot of parts to it that I really enjoyed. It introduced one of the more interesting side characters that I've seen in a movie in a long time. And I feel if the movie had sort of followed that a little bit more, that might have made it a bit more compelling. It's filmed in a really interesting way. It seems like a passion project. So I do encourage folks to check it out if you're into like indie horror, kind of like niche subject matter. Like the main character repairs like old synths. And so it's got some really interesting things to it. Unfortunately, it just didn't hold me. Um, enough to rate it higher, but this one is the top of my lower tier list. I rated this one as a 2.5 as well. Some honorable mentions for this section, and these are movies that I did watch this year, but that have their own videos that I did earlier in the year. And that is My Bloody Valentine from 1981 and the remake from 2009. If you wanted to check out my individual reviews on those movies, they are in my Valentine's Day edition from back in February. So, in the process of filming this, I have decided that this will be the first of 3 videos. I'm going to separate the other tiers into 2 separate videos. So, look out for those. Definitely like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll get to the more positive reviews that I have from the movies that I've watched thus far in 2025. If you stuck with me to this part of the video and 6 months into my YouTube journey, I appreciate it so much. I am also making short form videos on TikTok and Instagram and writing my reviews on Letterboxd. So if you like what I do here, check me out on those other platforms. and I'll have hopefully the other two parts of this video up in the next couple of days.